it's all questions and doubts about the high deficit euro nations, and my next guest is among those who believes that these PIGSs are in peril. Russell Jones is global head of fixed income at RBC Capital Markets. It's about not just about the deeds and believing those deeds, but it's about action and the follow-through here, there, and that's the tough part, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, getting out of this mess will require not just 1 or 2 years of fiscal consolidation for these countries, but perhaps 5, perhaps even longer than that, especially when you look at the demographic pressures which some of these countries are under. And that's the concern for the markets. Can they really follow through on the type of austerity which is going to be required over the longer term?
Deeply unpopular as well, I'm sure, the measures that they'll have to institute. So you could have a political backlash, it could get worse, it could lead to trouble on the streets, perhaps.
Well, already you're seeing the number of strikes build in Greece. I mean, even the tax collectors have gone on strike or threatening to go on strike, and perhaps that's the last thing that the Greek government needs. But I think that is symbolic of what we can look forward to, if that's the phrase, in some of these countries over the period ahead.
Many have said that this crisis would go away and that it would fade, but you're of another opinion here. Do you think it's going to get worse before it gets better?
It's a very brave man who thinks that we should be buying some of these spreads in the expectation that they'll trend in from here. I think it's going to be a very bumpy ride. My particular concern is if the contagion really spreads to Spain and Italy, because those two economies are much, much larger than Greece or Ireland. That would represent anything up to a third of the Eurozone being involved in this situation. And that would be very, very troubling indeed.
But there's no mechanism for countries to actually leave the euro, but, you know, so how does it actually deal with the pressures which are building up within it?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, my sense is that some kind of financial support package is unavoidable. The politics of that, though, are extremely complicated. I think it makes a lot of sense for the IMF to get involved, but that might be seen as a humiliation for the European Commission and European policymakers generally, and it's indicative of the fact that they can't come up with their own solution to the problem.
But they surely must have some sort of solution in the pipeline as well, because, I mean, they look at this and they go, all right, well, let's have a look at further, the history of monetary unions, and you don't get one, do you, unless you have political and fiscal measures which are done in tandem as well as just sharing the same currency.
Absolutely. I mean, at the moment, the mechanism to get out of this, if you like, from the centre is peer pressure. And the fact that the European Commission is putting people in place to make sure that these countries deliver. But over the course of history, what we've learned is that you need some kind of political union. You need a much more complex and coherent strategy of fiscal transfers between different parts of a monetary union to make it work. We don't have that yet.
Russell, thank you so much for joining us.